Welcome to the Vice Versa show. Today is 4th February 2026. This is Zim and I'm recording this podcast at 6:30 p.m. Indian Standard Time from Mumbai in India. In today's version of the daily happenings, we talk about business, finance, economics and technology. There's at least 30 major happenings of the day. Tariff cuts and post-budget discussions have been a broad part of today's coverage across leading pink dailies in India. Reportage has been positive on India's recent trade deal with America. The decision was announced by US President Donald Trump on his social media profile and on X, which is Twitter, by Indian Prime Minister Narendra Modi. This decision has come after America observed a reduction in India's imports of Russian crude oil. With this announcement, India's tariffs have seen a downward decline from 50% to 26%, and now it stands at 18%. The exact date of revision is not announced, but analysts expressed cheer that the tariffs on India were lower than that of others. China, for example, has been imposed by tariffs at 30%, while on Vietnam it was at 20%. A number of sectors in India are likely to benefit from the ease in tariffs. Engineering goods, pharmaceutical exports, marine products, auto sector, telecom exports, gems and jewelry are some sectors where we could see some benefit. There were initially some fears, which India's Commerce Minister Piyush Goyal informed are no longer fears. He informed that this US trade deal will not include sensitive sectors such as agricultural items or dairy. Although more information on the trade agreement is likely to be revealed to the public through the week, many observers expressed some aspects of caution and hope. Business journalist Andy Mukherjee, for example, wrote an article which is available on his Twitter, on his LinkedIn, as well as Bloomberg profiles. The blurb on the article published in the Live Mint this week reads that it's good news for India, though we await details on sticky points. Similarly, investor Shankar Sharma also sought additional clarity on the deal. On Tuesday, after announcement of the deal, Indian markets rallied by a huge margin. The Sensex had gained by 2.5% within one single day session. And on Wednesday, that is today, the BSE Sensex gained marginally. We'll talk about Sensex in just a few moments from now. But Sharma explained that more information about India-America deal is currently needed. Hear me out. As part of the trade agreement, India is expected to improve imports from America to about $500 billion in a time period of 5 years. According to data from India's Commerce Department, India imported about $45 billion worth of American goods for the fiscal year 25. The concern is that there is a possibility of higher imports from America coming into India. So at a time of high uncertainty where countries have gone berserk on trade deals and free trade agreements to protect themselves over uncertain policies, there is a very interesting quote which has appeared in some media outlets today, which is the International Monetary Fund's Managing Director, Kristalina Georgieva, and she gives us a very good thought to remember. She says, trade is like water. You put an obstacle, it goes around it. Among notable discussions today saw the discussion on budget and its impact. A unique angle of duty exemptions was discussed in several pink dailies. There were interviews of the Central Bureau of Indirect Taxes and Customs Chairman Vivek Chaturvedi, who clarified on the impact to customs duty revenue. It is still unclear how much the impact would be, but there is indeed some impact. Secondly, there is also reportage on the rationale on whether the US tariffs alone were the main factor of consideration for changes in customs duty revisions. Meanwhile, Sarbanand Sonowal, India's Union Minister for Ports, Shipping and Waterways, in an interview elaborating about the budget, highlighted that India's container scheme could attract investments to the tune of rupees 1 trillion or rupees 1 lakh crore. It is also reassuring that this particular policy could witness the creation of 3,000 to about 50,000 additional new jobs. On the policy front, to continue, the recently announced union budget saw some extension of tax benefits to data center operators. There was a lot of social chatter on the impact of these specific policies. A tax holiday season of up to 2047 for newer data center players is likely to invite some foreign institutional investor activity, FII activity or FPI activity. However, there is a cause of concern that they may not inspire existing domestic players in the same country, in India, that is. So, some of the popular names which we could see around today about those data center led services includes the likes of Reliance, Tata Consultancy Services, as well as Adani. While the discussions had been brewing since 1st of Feb when Finance Minister announced the policy, later on, that is on Wednesday, the Finance Ministry revealed that 4 key conditions for data center operators are needed for tax exemption right until 2046. Now, what are these 4 essential conditions? Condition number 1 is the foreign company should be notified and the data center company in India from which the data center services are taken must be an Indian company. Then the data center must be notified by the ministry, which is mighty over here. Services from the foreign company to Indian users must be provided through an Indian reseller entity, being an Indian company. So we are seeing some policy clarity on the tax holiday which Finance Minister Nirmala Sitharaman had spoken on the day of the budget. Editorially, and to continue, many Indian newspapers covered the highlights of the free trade agreement, the optimistic hope around it. Some also covered the recent report of the Finance Commission on power discom related stress. Some parts of the topics are also covered in the RBI's recently released report on the annual analysis of state budgets. On the editorial front, many newspapers in their editorials wrote about policies such as rare earth minerals, the hike in securities transaction taxes specifically for rare earth minerals. Some of the editorials have been really favoring India, considering that in the budget we saw a policy towards dedicated rare earth corridors in states like Tamil Nadu, Kerala, Odisha and Andhra Pradesh. So how should India leverage these corridors is what is being discussed. On the crude oil front, it's great that India is seeing a trade agreement with the US, which has come because we have sufficiently shown the Western world that we could move from Russian crude oil. However, a lot of these editorials are today talking about why replacing Russian oil could be a challenge. Firstly, on the supply chain front, replacing Russian oil could be a challenge because several reports on Wednesday, that is today, expressed the challenge for Indian refiners to process some other forms such as Venezuelan oil. Now, Venezuelan oil, for those of you unaware, it's sour. It has very high sulfur content and it is almost a tar-like consistency. Second big thing which we got to see is Moody's, the ratings agency. They came out with a report stating that there could be inflationary concerns should India move away from Russian crude oil. Moody's in fact cautioned that cutting oil supplies from Russia could not only stoke inflation but also tighten global oil supplies. For the record, we usually when we speak about crude oil, we get to see that or we perceive that India must be consuming sufficient crude oil for its domestic consumption. But on the whole, India also manages to process significant quantities for exports. Okay, so that's some concern which is going around in the domestic markets, especially in India. Moving on the international front, a big part of the reportage, a big part of the coverage that we get to see today is about Elon Musk and SpaceX. You see, Elon Musk's SpaceX announced that it was merging with the AI intelligence startup of Elon Musk himself, named as XAI. Now, this is a sort of a merger, so there is no financial deal value as such. But it is said that Elon Musk's XAI and SpaceX combination could mean newer potential, including the possibility of data centers located in far flung space. Where exactly? Certainly not on planet Earth. Now, post the merger, Musk announced on X that his business interests would create, in quotes, the most ambitious, vertically integrated innovation engine on and off Earth. The exact deal values have not been disclosed, but this particular merger values the combination of SpaceX and XAI collectively at about $1.25 trillion. So $1 trillion for SpaceX and nearly $250 billion for XAI. Now, this makes it the world's most valuable private company. Okay, and I again would like to emphasize on the word private company, because this company, which is SpaceX and XAI, is yet to be listed in the markets. And in case if it lists, the valuations could increase multifold. For the record, SpaceX is planning an IPO in this very year, that is 2026. Valuations could also sizzle given Musk's broader investments in his entire ecosystem or portfolio. He already owns X, that is formerly Twitter. Then there's SpaceX, XAI, the automotive company called Tesla, Boring company, of course, we're not talking about the emotion boring, but Boring company which offers tunneling solutions, and brain chip maker Neuralink. Now, this particular development is interesting for various different reasons. First interesting aspect is mergers and investments in the AI, data center, and renewable energy space are heating up. Going by Musk's own admission, an AI based data center could reduce the limitations of the data centers that we see on planet Earth. For example, data centers across the world, there are rising concerns about resources such as electricity, needing fresh water, or even space requirements. So the idea that you could have a data center somewhere outside of planet Earth sounds really exciting. But dealing with space, which is outer space, is outside of planet Earth, could invite newer problems, and accordingly there could be some solutioning over there. Now, Google, the tech behemoth Google from Alphabet, there have been some reports that Google's certain science teams have said that such techniques to implement them could take significant time. Techniques for what? Techniques to have your data center in the space. Okay, but Musk believes that solutions to have a data center in the space could become mainstream in another 2 or 3 years. Speaking about Google itself, the Wall Street Journal has reported that Google was attempting to take a lead in the AI energy space and was looking at ways to acquire a company called Intersect. It's a company which offers wind and solar capabilities, and the acquisition is expected, it's reported, at about $4 billion. Now, the talks of merger and space technology with at Elon Musk's organization, SpaceX and XAI, they're also coming in a week where XAI has been accused by OpenAI as systematically destroying evidence in an ongoing lawsuit. OpenAI accused XAI of trying to thwart competition in emerging markets. On the space front, NASA's famed Artemis 2 launch has been delayed owing to a liquid hydrogen leak. That concludes the stuff from the main coverages. Let's quickly turn our focus towards the corporate happenings in India. RIL-led Geo Studios has announced a 50.1% equity stake in CKA Entertainment Private Limited for rupees 150 crores. Sikya Entertainment is a film production and distribution company established by Guneet Monga and Achin Jain in 2008. The second news of the day is Adani Defense, which has informed that it would be partnering with Italian helicopter manufacturer Leonardo to make military helicopters. The move is expected to help indigenize helicopter making within the country. It might be important for some of us to note that in the recently concluded Union Budget, Finance Minister Nirmala Sitharaman had initiated the policy of removing customs duty on components and parts required for manufacturing of civilian, training, and other aircraft. Adani Group was also in the news for the last 5 days after news agency Bloomberg released a report citing that the company hired law firm Sullivan and Company to represent their ongoing proceedings with the US SEC, which is the Securities and Exchange Commission. Robert Joffre is a name which comes up in some of these reports. Robert Joffre is a name that has represented US President Donald Trump. From SEBI's listings, it has come to notice that IPO-bound Fractal Analytics, their IPO size has been revised. Previously, the IPO was estimated at about rupees 4,900 crores. Now it has been revised to raise up to rupees 2,834 crores. I'm not trying to sell you IPOs here, but just to inform you, the IPO opens from February 9 onwards. Moving on, Apple has opened its first education hub in India to train supplier workforce. The first of its kind initiative to be held in Bengaluru in India is running in partnership with the Manipal Academy of Higher Education. It is expected to teach workers across Apple's supplier network skills on aspects such as Swift coding, robotics, and automation. UPI transactions have hit a record high of rupees 230 trillion for the fiscal year 2026 until the month of December itself. According to numbers compiled by the India Brand Equity Foundation in FY23, the value of UPI transactions stood at somewhere about 139 lakh crores. Now, this number may be used to validate buying pattern and consumption behavior of Indians using UPI. India and Bhutan have agreed to strengthen official cooperation in power sector in a meeting held on Tuesday. During the deliberation, the Bhutanese and the Indian sides deliberated on commercial optimization of power outputs from two hydroelectric power projects. India and Bhutan also assessed the cross-border transmission links for time period until 2040. From the world of banking and policy making, the Reserve Bank of India's 3-day Monetary Policy Committee meeting is expected to commence from today, which is 4th of Feb, and it will on-go up till 6th of Feb 2026. This MPC meet, or the Monetary Policy Committee meet, involves the central bank governor and a team of economists, and they are likely to soon release an official report on several macroeconomic cues as well as crucial interest rate policy-led announcements. It may be important to note that there have been some polls conducted by media agencies. Many of them have indicated that the rates are unlikely to change. Housing finance provider Aditya Birla Housing Finance Limited today announced that its board has approved rupees 2,750 crores for a stake sale with growth capital of Advent International. Advent is expected to hold 14.3% stake, while Aditya Birla Capital Limited will hold the remainder. In news from the technology side, there have been rumors that Pune-based Zensar Technologies is probably in some sort of a race to acquire a stake in IT consultancy firm Mastech. Leading Indian pink dailies, 2-3 of them reported on the possibility, citing some anonymous sources. On Wednesday, Zensar informed the exchanges who had asked them about the validity of such reports. So Zensar's compliance team informed the exchanges that it did not have any material information to share about the possibility of such a deal. According to rumors, it was likely that this could be a 20% stake for about $200 million. For the record, Mastech is also a listed firm. However, it has not been sought for clarification, neither has Mastech come out with any reports in its filings. There are also some notable developments from the world of finance. Gold prices slipped to about rupees 1.62 lakhs per tola or 10 grams, keeping in line with international trends and currency volatility. Prices on the London Bullion Market Association, the data reportedly showed a number which is $4,804 per troy ounce. Please note that this is delayed data since I'm not a member to LBMA prices. But in the international spot markets, US gold futures surpassed the levels of $5,000. They were quoting $5,027 per ounce. The price in India was relatively lower because the US currency has been trading at its weakest ever in the last 4 years. The New York Times, in its very front page, had a very prominent article on this subject. On a 5 year basis, though, the US dollar is still quoting at about 7.12% higher, just for your record. As far as currency goes, the Indian rupee has managed to strengthen itself and it has come back to that 90.12 levels. In the equity space, on Wednesday, Indian stocks traded marginally upwards, with the BSE Sensex closing by about 78.57 points, which is marginally upwards. The 30 script Sensex was enabled by gains made by Eternal, that is Zomato, Trent, NTPC, Adani Ports, Power Grid, to name a few stocks. The concerning aspect, the Indian indices today, was the beating which was observed with IT stocks. IT stocks such as Infosys, Wipro, Tech Mahindra were all in the red today. In fact, BSE IT and Focused IT, these are two sectoral indices which you can go and see on the Bombay Stock Exchange, they slid by over 5% in the intraday session. Now, the reason has been attributed to a scare owing to automation among the IT world. There is a peculiar new keyword which has come up and it is called as SaasPoCalypse. Now, this SaasPoCalypse is trending. If you go to social media and check out Twitter, even YouTube, you will see some trending keywords over there. Now, this SaasPoCalypse is also trending because Anthropic, the AI provider, the makers of an AI tool called Claude AI. So this Anthropic came out with an announcement that their latest AI tool, which is Claude AI Assistant, has been upgraded. Now that upgraded version is capable of automating entire business workflows. So when all the business workflows could be automated by a AI tool, why would anyone require professional assistance is probably central to the whole idea of IT stocks. In fact, brokerage firm Jefferies in a report went on to call that SaasPoCalypse was a general sentiment where trades by investors were focused on the emotion of, hey, get me out from software stocks on the Wall Street. That's all for today. Thank you for tuning in and hope you found the information useful. Please listen to Genesis, my podcast, to understand why I started this service. I am Zim, an independent journalist and a video and audio creator. This is a vice versa production, and any bricks or bouquets can be sent to viceversa.in. Until next time, bye bye, and you have a great time ahead.